Hey everyone, it's Thomas here. So 2 days ago, I uploaded a video called The Best Speaker to Get. And I decided to take down the video because I realized by reading the comments, people were asking the same question. And then I also realized there's some things that I should not have put in the video. So what I've done, I've decided to answer like 2 or 3 questions that people were asking in an extra section. So it'll be at the end of this video. So for those of you who have seen the original video, just skip to this timestamp. And for those of you, the people who have not seen the original video, just keep watching. But before you jump, there are 2 things I want to talk about. And one is I want to make sure I apologize to anyone who gave me the advice that, you don't need a $30,000 system, but you need only a $5,000. Because by reading the comments, it might feel like I'm actually trying to discredit these people. It's nothing. It's not that. It's absolutely not. People who gave me these advice is from their heart, from their experience, and they truly don't want me to waste money, and I completely appreciate it. Yes, you have trolls. You have people who have no idea what they're talking about once in a while, making these kind of comments. But there are other people who truly have real experience and a lot of sincerity in offering the advice. So thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. And also at the same time, the reason why I'm addressing this issue in the video is because I want to make sure I'm respectful in answering presenting my point of view, so that you can understand my thought process behind it. That's from where I'm coming from. So if you have not seen the video, just continue. If you've seen the video, the first version, just jump to this timestamp. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's Thomas here. So today I'd like to make a video to talk about a question that I get asked frequently. And the question is, what speaker should I get? Every time when I get a question like this, I spend a lot of time going back and forth by email. And I figure, you know what, I might as well just make a video. And the next time somebody asks me this question, I'll link this video. The question is simple, but the answer is complicated. And the answer to this question is that I'm not going to answer it in this video. So you might be going like, so what's the point of me watching this video? You know what I think people like? People like answers like this. CAF LS50 is the best. And then everybody runs and go buy the CAF LS50. The ELAC DB6.2 is the best bookshelf speaker. Then everybody runs and go buys the ELAC DB6.2. So what I'm hoping to do in this video is to make you think instead. I've owned, by now 40 pairs of speakers. And I'm hoping that by sharing my experience, it'll save you a lot of time. You don't have to do what I did, go through different speakers to learn about different stuff. The next time when you go to an audio show, maybe you can keep what I said in this video in mind. So it'll help speed up your process of finding the speaker that you want. Now, I'm also going to use this video to address a comment that I get frequently. And that comment is, Thomas, you do not need a $30,000 system. You're too fixated on price. A $5,000 system is good enough. I've heard it before, and you're just wasting your money. I'd like to address that comment because that comment comes from the heart of people who give me this advice, and it is true to their experience. I'd just like to add something to it because just to give you a bit of my background, I'm actually an analyst for a telco company. So I spend every day solving problems. I have a degree in pure and applied science. I have a degree in statistics. I've taken many courses on problem solving. And for me, when I look at speakers, I look at it as a problem. And to solve a problem, you have to define your parameters, your variables. You have to define your measure. You have to set your measure of success properly before you even begin. Because if you don't do that, your conclusion can be so wrong. And I learned this the hard way. You make assumptions on things and that you should not have made assumptions on. So let me give you an example here, okay? Let's assume that one day I go to an audio show. I walk into the first room. I heard this Tecton double impact, very natural sounding, big soundstage, great bass, and I love it. Then I walked to the next store, which is a KEF reference 5 system. So the double Tecton system probably would cost about $5,000 to build US, and the second room probably would cost you about $40,000 to build. Now, because I'm the kind of person who love natural sounding speakers, and I hate very bright and detailed speakers, I'm going to walk out of that audio show saying that, you know what, you don't need that $50,000 system. The double Tecton Impact, fantastic. I love it. It was the best speaker at a show. And I'm going to come and tell you, Thomas, you do not need to spend $50,000. $5,000 is good enough. So that opinion is based on centering the world around me, right? Because I like natural sounding speakers, so therefore I form my opinion based on that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you choose speakers based on your taste. But for me, because I'm a problem solver, then I know that I cannot make assumptions that people have the same taste as me, so therefore I cannot give the same advice. And I think that's important to clarify it, because I think one thing people do is that they compare speakers to speakers. Okay, let me explain. I don't look at all speakers as speakers. I look at speakers like fruits. You have apple, oranges, lemon, and whatnot. So it does not make sense for me to compare an apple to an orange. I'm going to elaborate that a bit later. Now, the reason why we can compare speakers, for example, people coming to me asking me, is the LS50 better than the Tecton Double Impact? The reason people can ask that question is because when we evaluate speakers, at the end of the day, there are many objective values that we can use to measure a speaker. For example, soundstage, bass, details, how's the imaging on it, and so forth. Now, none of this you can measure by, let's say, instruments, like soundstage. How do you measure that? You don't measure that. However, I would say if you take 100 people and you explain to them, if you listen to this speaker, this is what you expect from, with the bass. And then if you listen to another speaker, you can objectively say that speaker A is better than speaker B in terms of bass. For example, bass, like in my previous video I've mentioned, bass has to be fast, it has to have definition, it has to have power, it has to be able to go very low, and here are a few examples to show it. Now, so therefore, it is possible to say speaker A is better than speaker B. So, for example, what do I have here? I have the ELAC here, the 249. I have the KEF R700 there. I have the Canton over there. And I can tell you, the KEF R700 is 4,000. This one I think is 8,000. The Canton over there is 20,000. I can tell you objectively, the Canton has the best bass. So the KEF R700 cannot go very low. This one can go low, but it doesn't have punch, and the Canton has both. So that's why when people ask, why is the speaker worth that much more than these other cheaper one, just the bass alone can justify that it is a better speaker. Then, of course, you talk about imaging, soundstage, and so forth, and overall, the Canton is better. Now, when we talk about being subjective, meaning that, you know, it's a question of taste, right? But for me, the subjective part is just a question of priority. For example, what is more important for you? And recently, somebody reached out to me, and he had the KEF LS50, he had the Bukhara S300. For those of you who haven't seen the video that I made on it, go check it out. And he came to the conclusion that, you know, the LS50 was better for him because he is somebody who values detail more, the top end, the clarity more. Although he acknowledged the strength of the Bukhara S300, which is the bass, he chose the LS50. Then I have another subscriber of me reaching out to me, and this is a true story. So what happened is that he has the KEF Q100, and he said that he likes to upgrade his speaker. So he was debating between the LS50 or the Bucar S300. Now, eventually he bought the KEF LS50, brought it home, listened to it, and he sent me an email and said that, you know what, I'm kind of disappointed. The KEF LS50 sounds like the Q100. Yeah, it's the same family, right? But he was expecting a lot better, and it was not a lot better because what he was looking for is bass. So his priority is bass. So although when he listened carefully, the LS50 is better than the Q100, because his priority is bass, the Bucar S300 was more the right speaker for him. And so he bought the S300 off me, and yeah, he sent me an email and said, yep, that's it. This is the speaker that's for me, and he's very happy with it. So let me ask you, which is the better speaker? Of course, the answer is it depends on your taste. Now, there's one more thing that I think that's very, very important when you choose a speaker that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And the reason why I say that is because I get people asking me, so how is the LS50 versus the Tecton Double Impact? For me, this is, you cannot compare it because one is an orange and one is an apple. So when I look at speaker, the question I always ask people who ask me, what kind of speaker should I get, is that, all right, so are you looking for a speaker who's analytical, detail? Are you looking for a musical speaker? Are you looking for a natural sounding speaker or a neutral speaker? And or if you're looking for like 60% analytical, 40% musical, you have to know what you're looking for. And the second thing you have to know, are you okay with hard dome tweeters, soft dome tweeters? Do you want horn, electrostatic, and so forth? Because each tweeter's presentation is very different. Hard dome tweeters are usually very bright. Even if among the family of hard dome tweeters, like the dark tweeters, is still very bright, relatively speaking, to the other like soft dome tweeters. So let's let's take the metal bass dome tweeter. So the KEF R700 will be very analytical, bright speaker. This ELAC here, which is a ribbon, let's just put it into the family there, right? It's also very bright, analytical. The Canton is neutral. What speaker would be dark? I can't think of any right now. Maybe the Pioneer S3EX. That's a ceramic-based dome tweeter. Yeah, I guess it's still hard dome. So I just said that S3EX is dark, but my friend who has it said that he still feels that it's very bright. So that's why even the dark tweeters in the metal family, it's still bright. So if you're somebody who don't like metal-based dome tweeters, then the whole family is just out of the window for you. My friend dropped by the other day and he told me, he said, I don't understand why people can listen to KEF LS50. Because for him, he wants to, let's say when he listens to guitar, he wants to hear the wood of the guitar. And for him, he said, I can't hear that in a metal-based dome tweeter. So for him, the whole, that's it. He doesn't want metal-based dome tweeter. Not to mention the fact that it hurts his ears. So if you're somebody who's like musical speakers, this DIY speaker I have here, soft dome tweeter, very musical, will destroy this ELAC. So can I say that a $250 speaker can outperform a ELAC $8,000 speaker? I mean, it doesn't make sense because we're comparing apple to oranges. And that's why I said, if when you're going to choose speaker, make sure you gain enough experience with each different kind of tweeter so that you don't waste your time searching for different kind of speakers. KEF LS50 is bright, but I have to say that I'm generalizing here, okay? Because 90% of people bring home will find it bright, 10% bring home will find it dark. So there is, in the stereo world, 1 plus 1 does not equal to 2. And for the sake of the conversation, I'm simplifying it. I understand there's a question of budget. I understand that, you can find soft dome tweeters that can do as well as metal based dome tweeter when it comes to that zing, that sparkling effect. Yes, it is possible, but it's in a different budget bracket. But that's not the point. The point is this. Going forward, if you don't have a lot of experience when it comes to what I just said, the next time when you go to an audio show, you listen for it. You walk into different rooms that have metal based dome tweeter, and you try to listen for the signature. And you walk into rooms that have electrostatic speakers, and you try to listen for that airiness, because each type of tweeter has its strength. Metal based dome tweeter, as I mentioned, they sparkle very well, pinpoint accuracy. They're very detailed, very fast, and so forth. Just Google it, right? What's the advantage of soft dome tweeter, and what's the advantage of metal based dome tweeter? And with that, you can pick up stuff faster. And then you realize that, okay, so Thomas said that double Tecton impact sounds very natural. You won't compare it no more to the LS50, because metal based dome tweeter has long decay. So let me try to illustrate this with an example, okay? Metal based dome tweeter, how are you? Natural sounding tweeters will be like, how are you? So the decay is very short. One is long, one is short. Which is better? There's no better. It's a question of taste. So next time, before you ask, how's this speaker compared to that one, maybe pay attention to what kind of tweeter it uses. At least that's my experience. As I said, there's no right or wrong, okay? And as I said, you can always compare speakers based on soundstage imaging and so forth, okay? But the key part is what kind of tweeter does it use. At least that's how I separate speakers. Now, I do wish that whenever people make a comment that a $5,000 system can outperform a $20,000, $30,000 system, is that they can list out all the things, all the equipment that was used to achieve that result. Because, I can be so wrong. Maybe there are systems out there that are 5,000 that can outperform 30,000. It's just that I have not come across it yet. And I listen to a fair share of systems, a lot actually. And yet I still I've never come across that. There are two exceptions to the rule though. The first one is DIY. It's possible that a DIY speaker can outperform an equivalent brand name speaker multiple times its price. Like a $1,000 DIY speaker can outperform a $2,000 brand name speaker. Yes, it's possible. The other one, the other exception, it's manufacturer selling directly to consumer. It's because you skip the middleman, right? The dealers and the distributor. So it is possible that they perform a lot better than their price bracket. Now, the problem with that is that not all products like that do well. Only selective. Very, very few products do that really well. The Bucar S300 does that really well, for example. All right, so I'm going to end the video right now. So I want to elaborate on this comment. Can a $5,000 system outperform a $30,000 system? There is some truth to this statement, and let me tell you a story. So recently my friend called me up and he said, Thomas, I bought this power cable and it's amazing. You have to come to listen. For those of you who've been following me, you know that I don't care about power cable. It's not that I don't believe that they make a difference. It's that I don't want to believe. And because I tried a few times, I can't really hear a difference. And yeah, I kind of feel there's a difference, but I can't really hear a difference. And I asked myself, maybe it's the placebo effect. Meaning that people think that people hear difference because of placebo effect. In my case, it might be the reverse. I don't hear any difference because of placebo effect. because I don't want to get into power cable. So therefore, I don't want to hear a difference, and therefore I don't hear a difference. I know it's weird logic here, but regardless, so I dropped by my friend's place home. He has the Focal Canta, and recently he bought the Macintosh C47 off me. The reason I bought it is because I wanted to answer this question: can a solid state preamp rival a tube preamp in terms of creating that holographic image? So once I bought it, I tried it. Okay, I get it. Then my friend bought it off me because he wanted to match with his C452 Macintosh amp. So I dropped by his place. It's been a while since I heard the Canta, and I never heard it with the Macintosh setup. So he started playing, and I'm going like, wow, this sounds bloody good. The bass is incredible on it. Really, really good. And then the next thing he did, he turned off the Macintosh, and the music kept on going. I'm like, what? Because when he was playing, I see the Macintosh needles going, right? So in my head, there was no doubt it was the Macintosh. But then he take away this cover, and underneath this cover was an Onyx A55 integrated amp. That is a $1,000 integrated amp. So you can imagine my shock, and this is definitely a lesson in humility. When you think that you're listening to a $20,000 setup, and in reality you're listening to a $1,000 integrated amp, and you're still blown away by it, I mean, that's like, yeah, that's really shocking. So I was both really shocked, and I'm also, in some sense, relief, in the sense like, because while he was playing the Onyx A55, in my head, it did cross my mind that why is it not smooth? Now, I own the C47, so I know that it has that edgy presentation. So I say maybe it's the preamp, and maybe it's the cables. I don't know, but I heard it. But it just, because I thought I was listening to C47, I just ignore it. I'm like, maybe I need to get used to it. I don't know what it is. And the second thing is that when he started turning up the volume, because I was trying to impress me with the bass, I had to ask him to turn it down. I say something like, I can hear distortion, and there was a bit of harshness really kicking in. So I caught that. So that, in that sense, I am relieved that, okay, at least I can tell a difference. But it doesn't change the fact that it is very impressive. And we sat down, we talked about it, you know, is the Macintosh worth 20 times the price of the Onyx A55? Okay, keep in mind, all the cables we used were more expensive than the A55, the source, the CD player. Okay, putting that aside, we're asking that question: is it worth 20 times? And I guess it really depends on each person, right? Because as a crazy audiophile, at least me and my friends, we listen for details. And for example, some passages, I can hear the clothes of the singer moving. Yeah, you heard me right. The clothes of the singer moving. You might go like, some of my viewer here will say that, Thomas, you are a crazy idiot. You actually want to listen to the clothes of the singer moving. And then I have other viewers probably going like, oh my gosh, I finally found somebody who understands me. Yeah. Is it worth it? Well, I don't know. All right, till next time. So in my original video, I did a slide talking about budget, and the reason is because when people ask me for what speaker to get, I always ask them, what is your budget? Seriously, I get emails like that. What speaker should I get? Period. Some response I get is, I don't care the price, as long as I get very good mid-range, non-fatiguing highs, and I get really powerful bass, I'm happy. The problem with this is, even at $20,000 speaker, I'm still struggling with that. If you have 50,000, yeah, maybe you get all three, all of whatever you want, doing well. You see, it's one thing to do amazing and one thing to do good. And choosing a speaker is a compromise. It's hard to find a speaker that has everything amazing, and that's the reality of it. So that's why it's important that you have a good understanding what you're looking for in a speaker. So therefore, when you search for a speaker, you put those main criteria in your search. Else, at the end, you're gonna try to get everything, and you get nothing. So next, one of the questions I get is, well, Thomas, yeah, you might have listened to 40, 50, hundreds of speakers, but you know what? I don't have that environment to listen. So usually I tell people this, if you're living in the States, there's always a Best Buy, there's always a local store to go listen. You can argue that, yeah, but those are not the speaker I want. So I would always tell people, you don't know what you want until you go listen. You think you don't like brake speakers, but you might end up loving them. And the only way to know, no matter how much you read on the internet, how many YouTube videos you watch, you're not going to know until you hear it. And the reason why you want to expose yourself to different kind of sound is so that you can find what you want. There's a saying, right? You never shop for what you don't know. That's why I said high-end audio. Okay, let's just talk about high-end audio for now. People complain about it, but in some sense I understand it, because until you hear high-end audio, you never know that what it can do, and therefore you'll never shop for it. So when you go to Best Buy, let's say you listen to clips, right? You want to get that taste of how a horn speaker sound. I mean, you just have to start somewhere, and maybe you like horn sound, the sound of what horn does, and then you start looking for speakers in that group. Or you go listen to certain speakers and you go, oh, this is very bright sounding. So you recognize it. And next time when you go on the forums or internet, you say, okay, this is a bright sounding speaker. I get it. I have a frame of reference. And this is the kind of sound I like. And then you ask around, okay, so compared to this general speaker, how does this speaker compare? So you need something to compare with. And the only way to do it is just go listen. And there are many surprises in my life that I've listened to, and that's also one of the reasons why I keep buying speakers, because I want to expose myself to different sound. I mean, until I heard electrostatic speakers, I didn't know that a speaker can be so airy. Until I heard the double Tecton impact, I never knew that, wow, a natural sounding speaker can sound like this. And right until I hear these metal-based dome tweeters, I didn't know that, okay, that realism is just incredible. You see, when I first started my journey, one of my mentors, he's really into natural sounding speakers, accurate speakers, soft dome tweeters, and for him, metal-based dome tweeters are just not it. So in my head, it's stuck there, okay, metal-based dome tweeter sucks. No good. Until one day I walked into somebody's home, but it was a Focal setup. The Alto, I think, that's the older model. And when he played a song for me, that's the first time where it actually really, really hit me. Oh, wow. Metal-based dome tweeter, when set up beautifully, it was with a YBA setup, can sound so real. That realism. No, not accurate, but real. And forever, that changed my mind on metal-based dome tweeters. So in closing, there are two things I really want to quickly address. One thing I realized is that because people start taking my advice seriously, I have to be very, very careful what I say in my videos. First of all, originally, you see, a proper true review channel is objective. The reviewer would not put his what he thinks about the let's say speaker, for example, into the review, because you're trying to describe the strength, the weakness of the speaker objectively. Here's where the problem is because my channel is not a review channel, it's just my journey, right? So things that I come across, things that I like, things I don't like, I share it. The problem is that once I start talking about things that are not to my taste, even though I can tell you how fantastic it is, the second I add in that one sentence, but, everything I try to build before that just crumbles down. Because I think that negativity is so powerful, and that's that got me thinking, maybe it's time for me to only talk about things that I like. You see, it's tough because I can tell you exactly what, let's say, a speaker A can do well, its strengths and weaknesses, but let's say it's not to my taste. I can't recommend it because it's not something that I'll buy for myself. But the thing is that not everybody has the same taste as me, and that speaker might work for other people, right? Recently, I listened to a very, very, very high-end system. That system can blow away all the systems I have here that I've come across. All 40 speakers that I have. It's everything, right? The setup, the room, and so forth. And yet, that speaker is not to my taste. And yet, it can blow everything I have here. So that's why when I say not to my taste, it doesn't mean that it is not good. It's just simply not to my taste. So right now, I actually have a few speakers in my hand that I'm debating if I should review them or not, because objectively, they're amazing. They're fantastic. But everything is a question of taste. If it's not to my taste, do I review it? Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now. All right. So the second thing, one thing I learned is that you need to spend time with a system to evaluate it. You cannot just walk into an audio show, listen for 10 minutes, and walk out and say that, yes, I know everything about this system. So let me tell you a story. So I have a friend who has a very, very nice system. And one thing I realized in his system is that it's missing a preamp. Okay, so what I did, I offered to lend him my tube preamp so that he can give it a try. Because, I have an idea what's missing in the system, so I recommend it. And of course, my friends are really open-minded to try stuff. And yeah, so the first second I brought it over, turned it on, he's like, Thomas, I don't really like it. Yeah, I know it's holographic, it's, smooth, but I don't like it. I like things that are sharp, clear, lots of clarity. And you know what? It is what it is. 10-15 minutes later, the tubes warm up, and that's where he goes like, oh, you know what? I'm actually starting to really like this. And what I did is that I left it to him to try for a few days. A few days later, he called back and said that, you know what? I'm going to start looking for a preamp. I knew in theory what a preamp can do, since we read it all the time on the internet, but to actually experience one is one thing. And also to experience a tube preamp is another thing. So a few days passed again, and then he called me up and he said, Thomas, you want to sell me that tube preamp that you lend me? So this goes to show that you need to spend time with equipment to really be able to judge it. And I think that's part of my message here, building this channel. You see, I'm not trying to promote high-end audio. I'm out here to search for the truth. That's what I'm trying to do. I bought a Macintosh C47. Once I found the truth, then you know what? I sold it. Simply because I cannot afford it. The Macintosh C352, for those of you who have been following me, you know that I have one. And guess what? When I sit down objectively and think about it, I love it, but it's expensive. And for me, for my kind of income, I decided, okay, objectively, I should not keep it. Sure, it's fantastic. Go. Sold. The Canton Reference 3.2 is the best speaker I have. It's the only speaker that I'm fully satisfied. But once you sit down and think about it objectively, does it make sense to spend so much money on a speaker for my kind of income? Nope. And I sold it. So the point I'm trying to make is that, look, I understand that high-end audio pissed off a lot of people. I get it, right? But to truly evaluate it, you really need to bring it home, spend time with it, so that you can truly understand it. So part of, as I said, the purpose of my channel is just to have to make people have an open mind about it, right? It's not like I read it on the internet and therefore it's true and therefore, no, it's more like I bought it, I tried it, and then I tell you, what I feel about it. Anyway, enough ranting. One thing I want to show you before we close off this video is this new toy that I got, okay? You see this speaker, DIY speaker. Well, DIY, no. It's a person that lives near my house. He used to build speakers for studios, recording studios. So these speakers, they're not well known because it's built by somebody local, right? So this speaker actually is very musical. When I say musical, I mean it's rolled off. The tweeter is not bright, it's not sharp, it's not detailed, it's just very smooth. And it's the kind of speaker that you can listen forever. Now, for those of you who have been following me, you know that I don't like musical speakers. I don't like speakers that are natural sounding and so forth. So what did I do? Okay, let me show you. Oops. I went out and I bought this super tweeter to put on it. So you got the volume control, you have the crossover built inside. And yeah, you run a wire from the speaker to it, from the banana plugs behind to it. And I just was curious, what happens if I put a super tweeter to a musical speaker? All right, so I'll make a video on it one day. I just got it today, actually. It's interesting. It works. It works. Okay, till next time.